Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are, and welcome once again to Anime Octane, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, or me, the folk at Nerd Caliber, tonight talk about a recent piece of anime entertainment. Usually recent. Sometimes we do go back and talk about classics, but tonight it is definitely going to be a recent and currently running piece of anime entertainment, and that is we are going to be talking about My Dress Up Darling. Um, we won't be exactly going with our normal format because we did talk about this in the couple of episodes ago where we talked about our favorite winter 2022 two to watch and two to miss. So we've already done the, what we like, what we don't, what worked, what are themes, and so on. Plus, we'll save that for undoubtedly another show when this all wraps up, or at least the season of it all wraps up near the end of March. So early April, there will undoubtedly be another episode about My Dress Up Darling. But like in the previous shows or any other Anime Octane show, since we aren't going to be talking about, and we won't be simping specifically for Marin-chan, we'll be simping for the show itself. That means spoilers. So we will be talking about everything or many things that have happened in the show up to this current episode 7. So if you have not seen the show up to its current episode, and you don't like spoilers, you should probably be watching this after you've seen it up to this point, or wait until sometime in April when the entire season has run its course. If you have seen it up to this point and you don't mind spoilers, then absolutely join us in the chat. Let us know what you think about the show itself, about my opinion of the show, or what's what's going on with the show, and that's it. So, I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, burly_adopter on Twitter, a couple of other places, doing a couple of other things, and before we get into discussing My Dress Up Darling and why I think it's really something that, you might want to simp over, let me start with our first promo of the night, and that is, if you have a Twitch account, we'd really love you to go to that URL that's on your screen right there, twitch.tv/nerdcaliber, and check us out. Follow us if you think that's a good thing you want to do on Twitch. We'd love to build our Twitch numbers. We stream live on Twitch, Facebook Live, and YouTube for every one of our 3 weeknight shows. So, My Dress Up Darling is an anime that's currently airing. It's up to episode 7. It is based on a manga. The manga is currently ongoing. Let's see if I can find the information here. That appears in Young Gangan. The Gangan comics are different imprints from, of all people, Square Enix. Although this has absolutely nothing to do with a game, and from what I understand, most of the stuff they publish in their comics is not game related. They are manga. But they have different demographic imprints for different markets. So Young Gangan obviously is geared towards younger people. Although this is described in their description as a seinen, which is for adults, which generally means it deals with more adult and serious topics. I'm assuming it's in seinen in this case because of the fan service, and the fact that there's no other thing to put it in. It's definitely not a shonen. It's not really a shoujo, although kind of. It's a romance, and I guess romance fits in seinen for their categories. The animation is done by Cloverworks. Getting back to the manga. So the manga, like I said, is currently ongoing. It started in January of 2018, and it has been collected into 8 volumes, 6 of which are already available in English. So if you want to read ahead, you can certainly do that. Cloverworks is doing the animation. Cloverworks has 3 different anime currently airing, 2 of which are adaptations. Akabe's Sailor Uniform and then one original Tokyo 24th Ward. So, fingers crossed that they'll get through all of it. And the story is basically, if you have not seen it, and again, if you haven't seen it, why are you watching this? Oh, by the way, Lena in chat on YouTube, welcome to the show, and I really hope you did not, in fact, bust open in anticipation of the show starting. So, so the anime is about a high school student, Gojo Wakana, who is a tall, fit young man, but very socially awkward, has no friends, basically spends all of his time when he's not at school at where he lives, which is with his grandfather, who has a Hina doll shop. Hina dolls are the traditional Japanese dress stalls that have very traditional sort of kabuki-like outfits and hair and makeup, and it's primarily a porcelain head on a wooden armature that you put the clothing on, and then the porcelain head is painted and little wigs are put on them and so on. And his grandfather is a master at this, and he is trying to learn this skill, which means he knows how to sew. He encounters Katagawa Marin, a beautiful, popular, very outgoing girl in his class, who discovers that when she goes into the completely unused home ec room, apparently they do not have home ec classes or a club at this point, to work on her own cosplay, discovers that he can, in fact, sew, and just loses it. And almost immediately shows off her cosplay, which he criticizes brutally, and then asks him to make this costume for her. And then the story is basically, from this point, about them working together as a cosplayer and a costume crafter. It is absolutely adorable. Their relationship is, one of the best, most wholesome and adorable relationships presented in quite a while at the same time being a show that is absolutely loaded with fan service. So if you like either or both of those, you will be well satisfied. If you like either but don't like one of the other aspects of it, then it's probably not the show for you. Now, having said that, for the most part, the fan service works in logical connection with the development of the story, for the most part. So you're rarely going to get the Arrow Manga Sensei sort of just, look, here's, the omniscient director camera operator's view of just zooming into a body part. Rarely. It is mostly based on what characters in the show see in situations that are generally believably and normal. It gets a little bit less so as the episodes go along, but certainly in the first few episodes, it's 100% that. So if you really don't like ecchi or fan service anime because of the ridiculousness of the situations they fall into, and literally fall into is often what happens to them, this does not have that kind of absolutely ludicrous fan service in at least the first 3 or 4 episodes. Now, if you know Nerd Caliber, you know that we are very strongly connected to the cosplay community. We do a lot of cosplay questions of the day in our videos on YouTube. We do a lot of cosplay photo galleries on our website. We do social media when we're at a con. A lot of times, our social media post will be about an interesting cosplay or cosplayer we just ran across. We are really, we have run for years, although obviously we haven't in many years. Thank you, COVID. The Cosplay and Photography Expo. our very own, relatively small but lots of fun convention about the intersection of cosplay and photography. So, yeah, we are really deeply connected to the cosplay community. And when I saw the first teaser YouTube, or on YouTube for this anime, I'd never heard of the manga at all. And I saw it and went, "Ooh, cosplay? All right, cool." And then of course saw Marin-chan and just went, I mean, this is like the most gorgeous character design I've ever seen. And then once, well, I could get the impression of her character, even though I didn't understand the Japanese, when I saw the first trailer, which was, of course, in just Japanese. Once they did an English subtitled version of it, it was just like, oh, all right. Now I'm really super invested because she's wonderful. She's just an amazing character. So once I started watching it, in that first scene, so in the first episode, when Marin puts on the cosplay that she had tried to make for this character, Shizuku-tan, Shizuku Kuroe, from well, I'll get to that in a second, from a video game. And it's clearly very amateurish. And Gojo immediately just starts, blasting her, her bad stitching, her, mostly her bad stitching, and bringing her almost to tears, which is, rough. And he, of course, immediately regrets it. But, I've heard cosplay judges say that about, their own work when they couldn't finish stuff in time. Going, don't anybody ever look, underneath here. I just, that's like, it's, it's tape. It's not, actual proper stitching, or it's, bad stitching. I didn't have a chance to do the correct kind of stitching. Things like that. So many times I've heard that, that self-dig from cosplayers, to then hear, Gojo as someone who knows how to sew properly, deliver it to Marin-chan. It was just like, wow. So this show knows what it's talking about, at least as far as sewing goes. In the third episode, when they go shopping for all the material that they're going to need for the costume and the accessories, wigs and so on, it is 100% clear that the mangaka, and the mangaka is Shinichi Fukuda, and as far as I can tell, that we don't have any idea what gender Shinichi Fukuda is, male, female, or otherwise. So I don't know whether or not the mangaka just did really amazing research talking to a lot of really fantastic cosplayers about how this works, or in fact has actually done cosplay crafting, and really got a sense of what is required. I didn't realize this until I read an article. Is that still up here? Yeah, it is. So in that third episode, they go shopping for a wig. They go into a wig store in Tokyo called Swallowtail, which really exists. And in the manga, the sign, with the, over the shop as they're walking in, actually has a link on it to the website. That just blew my mind. That's the level of detail that is in here about cosplay. Again, whether it was fantastic deep research or whether the mangaka really knows all of this. And then, obviously the mangaka also did research on Hina dolls, and just, it's really, as far as I can tell, I don't know anything about Hina dolls, but it looks like they know that as deeply as they clearly know cosplay and sewing. Again, whether from experience or just excellent research, I don't know, and I've not really heard. But if you are a cosplayer, I can't recommend that you watch this enough. Recommend enough that you watch this. I can recommend that you watch it enough. I would say watching it, once or 12 times might be enough. Because it is so on point. When Marin-chan actually does wear the finished costume to a cosplay event, that is absolutely perfect. From something as simple as Gojo just standing around with, a couple of bags in his hands while she's getting photos taken of her by, a half a dozen or more, photographers, one after another. So, at that point he's the handler. And then actually has to do real handler things. It's a very warm day. He deliberately chose a heavier fabric because of the proper look of it, and other factors come into play. Notably the fact that while Marin-chan is not lightly endowed, the character is obviously from what it turns out to be an eroge, an erotic video game. Is very well endowed, so she winds up putting a couple of what they call new bras, basically stick-on push-up bras, to really lift things up. And that, in a bunch of the wig and everything else, she almost has heat stroke. And even that part is just so accurate to even my experience with cosplayers. I have helped cosplayers right at the edge, actually in some cases actually suffering from heat stroke. And I'm not a handler. I mean, this is just, they happen to know I was around and felt that they could ask me to help out. So yeah, it really so far absolutely nails the cosplay community and the life of a cosplayer perfectly. The relationship between the two of them, between Gojo and Marin-chan, is displayed or portrayed just adorably. Now, I didn't say I said I wasn't going to just simp over Marin-chan, but the way they've written the character and then the way the actors, both the Japanese voice actor or actress and the English or the English dub voice actress, do an absolutely fantastic job of capturing this very outgoing. In anime, her character would generally be called a garu, a Western-leaning, very progressive young woman. She has lots of piercings in her ears. She wears her skirts quite short, and blonde hair. She's had her hair dyed blonde. All of those things are emblematic of what they call the garu, or which simply means gal, or the Japanese version of the word gal, which apparently in Japanese culture indicates to them somebody who leans more towards Western fashion and attitudes, or a woman that does so, or a young woman. So she's portrayed this way, but in a lot of cases, a lot of garu are portrayed as kind of, for lack of a better term, bitchy. And Marin-chan is nothing like that at all. She is absolutely forward and outgoing and seems to be close to shameless in the sense of, has almost no sense of embarrassment until she does, and it is just the most adorable presentation of, somebody getting embarrassed. It just makes her that much more perfect for the ultimate waifu of at least the 2022 season, if not many years. So that portrayal is wonderful. Gojo's portrayal as a Socially awkward, mostly friendless, well, completely friendless, um, high school student who's dedicated to a really weird hobby that, as far as most high school students would think of it, making Hina dolls, um, is really solid. I like the Japanese voice actor doing that quite a bit better than I do the English dub voice actor. He's okay, but up against the comparison of the young woman who is doing the voice of Marin-chan in English, certainly, and then up against the Japanese voice actors, there's a big gap in quality. Um, and I generally watch anime in subtitles. Gojo's character is written very well. He is not just a cipher in that he's not an male audience insert into the the character to become you're the guy who is falling in love with a super cute girl and eventually developing potentially a harem. There are other characters that are being introduced. Because it's really hard to identify with a guy who spends his time sewing clothes for porcelain dolls for most guys. So, he is individual enough that that's not an issue. And I like that. I think that's very refreshing because so many of these guys in shows like this have a tendency to be shows that lean more towards harem and ecchi have a tendency to be literally just almost empty vessel male audience insert characters. Certainly in the isekai side of things in harem or ecchi. Generally not so much in romance, which is why I would classify this almost entirely as a romance. The two of them are individual enough to be like the two main characters in Horimiya, or so many other anime from all sorts of times. But recently, there's been quite a few really good relationships that are primarily, one person and their love interest. Whether that is, as is predominantly the case in most anime, a standard heterosexual cisgendered relationship, or whether it's something like Given, in which you've got two high school boys bonding over their absolute love of rock and roll music, of playing rock and roll music, not just listening to it. Those animes portray these characters in a fairly adorable way. Given a little less so, there's a little more romantic drama involved in that, but again, not nearly as much as there usually is in a typical yaoi or BL type anime. So these two, Gojo and Marin-chan, are certainly the latest version of that adorable relationship, but also one of the best in my mind. Certainly way better than the relationship in Rent-a-Girlfriend. Anyway, and a similar level of fan service in ecchi, perhaps even more so than Rent-a-Girlfriend in this. Now, I had mentioned before that I really like the fact that for the most part, the I don't know if I want to use diegetic to refer to fan service, but it does work within the context of the story. Marin-chan is a garu, and so she wears her skirt short, and one time when she spins around in the first episode, you get to see a flash of butt, just a little bit to the bottom of cheeks, but it would make sense based on what she was doing and the nature of the skirt she was wearing. When she gets super excited about the fact that Gojo agrees to make the outfit for her first cosplay, Shizukutan, and she's wearing what her version of Shizuka-tan's like sort of Lolita maid dress would look like, and she's jumping all around the home ec room, and again you get panty shots, but they're shown from Gojo's perspective, and he was on his knees apologizing for making her cry. So it makes sense. In the second episode, he has to take her measurements, and she realizes that could be pretty embarrassing. She doesn't want to obviously strip down to her underwear, so she wears a bathing suit. And at least half of the episode is literally him trying not to lose it, measuring this gorgeous girl in a bathing suit. But again, it works within the nature of the story. Third episode, she's actually trying on in one of the stores some of the lingerie, or the lingerie that they've picked out for her to wear underneath the outfit, because the garter belt, the purple lace garter belt and stockings, actually are important for the character. And she teasingly gives Gojo a little, glimpse of that, through the curtains of the changing booth. It's not until later on that you start to get a little bit less. You start to get the traditional director's omniscient point of view kind of fan service shots. And in particular, in episodes 6 and 7, where 5, 6, and 7? Anyway, where Gojo first meets this really well-known cosplayer, Juju. Actually, let's go. Inui Sajuna, who is a very petite, short person, and it turns out is actually in a higher grade than they are, so is a senpai to both Gojo and Marin-chan. But the circumstances of how he runs across her is almost right out of a standard ecchi, for just the sake of ecchi type anime. She goes to visit him. He's not there. His grandfather assumes, because she's wearing a high school uniform, that it's a friend of his, and apparently she just lets that happen. Invites her into, she gets caught in the rain. Invites her into, get her clothing dried and take a bath, and then has to leave for an errand. So Gojo, of course, just walks in. Or his grandfather leaves for an errand as he's coming in, and he says, "There's a friend of yours," and he is trying to figure out who it is. So he just walks into the bathroom, of course, while she's getting out of the bath, and has a towel half draped around her. Slips, typical, sees everything, blah, blah, blah. And I saw that and went, okay, so, all right, we're going to be a little bit more standard ecchi. I get it. And then later on, they wind up agreeing to have Gojo make a costume for her from a very popular magical girl anime with a kind of a dark twist. The main character eventually turns into Black Shion. The character's name is Shion, which is sort of like the evil version of the main character. And he agrees to make a costume for her of that. That's the reason she was there, of course, is that she had seen Marin's first cosplay and asked somebody, or I can't remember how but she wound up finding out that Gojo made the costume for her. So she went there to talk to him and see about commissioning a costume for herself. And later on in the next episode, where Gojo calls her to, because he had sent her an image of all of his sketches for that character design, and called to make sure they were okay. She's ready for bed. She's just wearing a t-shirt, and of course is laying on her belly, and again, male gaze, omniscient director point of view is like right up her legs to her panties before it comes around to her face where she's talking on the phone. And I was like, you know what? I'm still going to watch the series. It's way too good to get upset about something like that and drop it. But it's kind of disappointing that they've gone in that direction when it was clearly a decision not to do that in the first 3 episodes. Now, having said that, I looked this up, and this may be one of the things that Cloverworks does to try to make it through, 3 full animes per season. But every single episode so far has been directed by a different person. And maybe that is one of the reasons why some of these camera angles have changed. That, they're going with directors who are used to that. Maybe that's a shot that comes right out of the manga. I don't know. I haven't read it, but I'm going to guess that it's coming from the fact that there are these other directors. Every episode literally has a different director. I'm hoping that, the next episodes, and even the next 2 that are coming up, which are listed on Wikipedia but without any information, just their titles, 8 and 9, have 2 different directors who have not directed any previous episode. However, they are also they've also done their own storyboards. That's actually pretty interesting because that's not the case with a lot of the actually it's the case with the first 2, and the next so these directors will be doing their own storyboards, and they have not done storyboards for any previous episodes. So so that's a mild disappointment in what is otherwise an absolutely fantastic, and what I had considered up to this point a pretty innovative show in the way it handles these ecchi and fan service moments. Like I said, I'm still not going to even consider not watching this. Even if it didn't have the fan service, the relationship between the 2 of them is just so adorable. And again, the way they understand what cosplay is and how difficult it is, the nature of the people who are truly dedicated and dare I say obsessed cosplayers, it's wonderful. They really nail it. Even the crunch of making a costume in a very short amount of time, they get that down perfectly too. It's really excellent. And if you have any connection to the cosplay community whatsoever, you really should be watching this. I just realized I've been talking all this time and I haven't shown any of the images that were up on the screen before. So I'll just run through a few of them here. That is one of the first times you actually see Marin in the first episode, and she's talking to Gojo. So this is from Gojo's point of view. I decided that I'm not actually going to show that one because that one probably won't. This is Marin from when they go shopping for material and accessories. The first time they're doing a fitting, and you can see his, he's got bags under his eyes, dark circles under his eyes. He's been working 2 weeks almost nonstop in trying to get this thing done in time for what it turns out was an actual miscommunication. She had just mentioned that there was a cosplay event in 2 weeks, but really didn't expect them to go to it, and never told him that. So even that part of it is perfect. This is her first attempt to take a picture in full costume, where he's just basically taking a cell phone shot of her. And they capture the fact that she, it's really tough for her as, just somebody who hasn't really done cosplay photos before to get into character. She's just doing selfies. And eventually she figures it out, and really gets into character. Winds up out at the cosplay event. I didn't find any high res photos of that. But this is when after the whole incident with Juju and Gojo, when Marin comes over and realizes it's Juju and just flips out. It's one of her favorite cosplayers. Juju's a little put back, obviously. And this is the next part of that scene. Actually, you can even see here, you've got a little bit of butt cheek and panties in the background there, of when she's talking to Gojo about the design of the Shion cosplay that he's going to make for her. And then this is from the very last episode. The tall, busty girl sitting across from Marin is Juju's little sister. Character name Inoue Shinju, who is her photographer. Whenever she goes to events or whenever she has a new cosplay to take pictures of, they borrow their dad's camera, and Shinju is the photographer. So yeah, it's and as you can see, the character designs are fantastic. The animation is really solid. It is a fantastic, enjoyable, well-written, fun, very funny. I'm not gonna, even though I can obviously been getting out spoilers for the show itself. I'm not going to give out any spoilers to the first episode, because the last line of the first episode is just one of the best comedic deliveries in recent memory in an anime. It's really solid and built up throughout at least the second half of the entire episode. It's really good. So yeah, I'm going to continue watching it. I would recommend that you start if you haven't. We will definitely be discussing this when it wraps up at the end of March. So sometime in early April, it will be on the docket for a complete full spoiler chat or Anime Octane review. And that's it. So My Dress Up Darling, go watch it. If you are at all a part of the cosplay community, or you just like cosplay, or you like really adorable, romantic comedies in anime, or you like a lot of fan service, or all of the above. It ticks all of those boxes. So that's it, folks. Before I do promos for upcoming stuff, real quickly, our next promo for one of our sites, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Really love to have you go check it out. If you are of a mind to become a patron, we'd love to have you. We only have 3 tiers, and the lowest one is $2 whole. We use that to go to cons, now that cons are hopefully, fingers crossed, all coming back, and get more content. More content for here, more content for the website, or here being YouTube. I keep forgetting that we do stream on many other platforms. So patreon.com/nerdcaliber. So tomorrow night, we've got Nerd Week Live. We got a decent roster. It's not going to be as insane as last week, where we went almost an hour and a half because we just had so many topics. But we got quite a few. Next Thursday is our full fat spoiler chat, which will be Peacemaker, the HBO Max series that was a spin-off of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which, kind of spoiler for what our rating is, but it's freaking hilarious. So yeah, Peacemaker, if you haven't seen it, it's on HBO Max. We'll be doing that this Thursday. Next Monday will be another No Nerd Caliber, and that will be favorite D&D classes or characters. And the reason we're doing that is because not this coming Thursday, but the Thursday after that, our full fat spoiler chat will be The Legend of Vox Machina, which wrapped up this Friday, its first season. So we'll see you at one of the upcoming shows. hopefully. And in the meantime, please do stay safe. Enjoy the weather if it is good. Right now it's good here in New England, and at the end of this week it's going to suck again with at least a half a foot of snow, if not more. I'm just getting so tired of it. But anyway, yeah, please stay safe out there. And again, even though Boston has lifted its indoor proof of vaccination mandate for all indoor events, get vaccinated, get boosted. The numbers don't lie. Way fewer deaths, way less serious outcomes if you do catch it. And of course, wear a mask. Wear an N95 mask. You can get them online. They are available. That said, we'll see you in an upcoming show.